I don't even know. I don't even have an introduction. I am lost for words with how much I enjoyed that Mexico City Grand Prix in 2025. I am suitably and satisfiably banged from that Grand Prix weekend. My name is Dan. I'm joined by Alex. We are the Lapdown Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. If you're not, drop us a comment. Let us know what I want to know, and I don't care about you, Alex. What I want to know is who people think are going to win the World Championship right now. So comment that because we would like to know. Also, if you're listening to it on Spotify, leave us a review, follow us, and all that other good shit as well. So, are you suitably banged as well? Did you consider yourself to have had a good old-fashioned banging yesterday night?
It was a scrappy one. It was a scrappy banging as well, wasn't it? That wasn't like laps and laps of neat but high intensity racing. Like that was street fighting banging, wasn't it? That was everything. I have a lot of notes about a lot of different things. There's a lot for us to digest from that. I suppose the upshot of all of it is that we have a new world championship leader that I don't think we were necessarily expecting to come out of this weekend with a new world championship leader. I think that's caught a few people by surprise, and that's got some ramifications. But this is probably going to have to be a new segment for us every week, isn't it? It's right, tell us now who's winning the World Drivers' Championship, because I think it's going to change. It's going to keep flip-flopping. I mean, you put a video out that Max Verstappen was the bookie's favourite, and then by the time I'd checked it, Lando Norris was the bookie's favourite. Oscar Piastri's now at like $4 or something to go and win it. I was like, what's going on here?
Go on then. Up the flagpole. Who are you saying is going to win the Drivers' World Championship on Monday the 27th of October with 4 feature races and 2 sprints to go?
Well, Lando's going to do it now, isn't he? Now Lando's going to do it. And I'll tell you why Lando's going to do it now, because now Daddy Brown can favour him, subtly or unsubtly. Okay. He's been gagging to do it the whole time, and now he can. It's a big confidence sport, isn't it? You've got to be driving fully believing what's underneath you. And we'll come on to it in a little bit. Yes, we're off to Brazil next, and that should be a little bit of OP territory, you would think. But the bloke's just won a Grand Prix by the best part of 31 seconds, where he kind of told us all he was going to win by 31 seconds after quali, because he got asked, what's the plan for tomorrow? And he said, try and win by as much as possible, which I know is not exactly the deepest, interview insight, but he's clearly in an excellent headspace. We don't claim to be psychologists, but if you're going to get your crystals out, all the crystals are, bright yellow Lando Norris shaped things, aren't they?
That's what I needed. That's what I needed to hear. Not because I want Lando Norris to win the World Championship. I don't really care. Do I have a preference? I suppose being a Britisher, which we get accused of a lot on this podcast.
Yes, because I sound British.
You are a proud Britisher. I suppose I would have to sway towards Lando. I certainly wouldn't lose any sleep over it whatsoever if either of the other two won it. But yeah, good for Lando. And it was an incredible drive, wasn't it? Well, we think it was anyway. We assume it was. We only really judged it by the timing tower because we didn't see him at all.
No.
Never. At no point. I think we saw Ollie Bearman's dad on the broadcast for longer than we saw Lando Norris. And can I just say, actually, from the TV directorship, Ollie Bearman's dad's reaction was the perfect use of who's at the back of the garage right now. Because they're videoing them, they're recording it. Something good happens, and then if there's a reaction, they can go, here's a replay of Ollie Bearman's dad celebrating the move to overtake X, Y, and Z. They haven't just cut to Ollie Bearman's dad, who's gone to the back of the box to open another box of shortbread biscuits to dip in his cup of tea, and he's just kind of gone.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But yeah, Lando was good, we think, we assume.
Yes. Yeah. He did genuinely just piss off into the sun, didn't he? Like, this was old school Max Verstappen type, I'm gone business. I've legged it. I'm off. Like, he was pulling out. It felt like it's at some stages nearly a second a lap. It felt like, I'm sure it maybe took a couple of laps per second, but it was one of those where you'd look away, you'd dip your own shortbread in your own tea, and you'd look up and the gap was now 14 seconds and it was 12, a dunk ago. And yeah, I mean, when you're winning races with a pit stop in hand, Oh, wow. And for that to have happened and for us to still be fully banged, I mean, wow.
That only tells you that kind of positions 2 through 20 were good eating, weren't they, through the course of that Mexican Grand Prix? Should we try? And I know we're not experts in this whatsoever. We've never claimed to be, and we don't investigate much of our research either. But should we try and pick the bones out of lap 1, turn 1?
And lap 2, turn 1.
Yeah, and lap 1, turn 3.
And lap 1, turn 8. And finally, like, I think you said my message to me, like the first 10 laps were just an absolute clusterfuck of just everything, all the way up and down the grid. You watch with Sky commentary, don't you?
Yes.
You watch this? Yeah. So I was F1 TV this weekend, and I am actually beginning to favour F1 TV for my commentary. That's a whole nother off-season episode. But at one point, when we lost Lance Stroll at the back when he spun, they just went, "Oh, Stroll's gone." Like it was as if look, it's gonna. It's like the weakest kid in the Hunger Games. Like, yeah, he's been shot in the head. Like, we all knew that was gonna happen. Like, that's not a problem. Yeah, I mean, where do we begin? I'll make it really easy. Why not?
Yeah.
Should Max Verstappen have been penalised for lap 1, turn 1 in Mexico?
We spoke about this the other day, didn't we? It doesn't feel like that long ago, and we were talking about kind of self-penalising penalties that we were talking about, and whether that should or shouldn't be a thing. And I can't actually remember whether we did or didn't like it. I'm not 100% sure whether we did or whether we didn't. But I mean, the one thing I would say about Max Verstappen is how was he that brave just to drive across the lawn and just go, but I'm just going to floor it and see what happens.
Yeah.
See what happens. I mean, how do they do reconnaissance on that? How do they go out there and go, yeah, no, this is all right. We can definitely put 1,000 horsepower of Formula One car down on this grass because it's level enough to get through. Like, they haven't just gone through and gone, oh shit, there's a molehill and that's completely destroyed the underside of my car, or there's a rabbit hole, or there's a massive steaming pile of dog turd there that flicks up and goes into an air intake or something. I mean, yeah. Did he gain an advantage? I think he did. I think he did, because if he had not gone all the way that far, which he was very close to going in the wall, tried to then make his way back onto the circuit to complete turn 2, he would have had to have waited a significant amount of time to have found a gap or created space or lost positions and not ended up in P2, who then self-penalised himself to drop down to P4, which is very honourable and very noble. And then therefore had found himself in P12 or P14, which would have meant for a completely different set of circumstances, which would have transpired later down the Grand Prix. So self-penalising, call me out. If I'm contradicting myself with what I said earlier this season, then please call me out. But I don't think I am. I'm not a fan of it, because it's a case of you're always going to give yourself the least penalising penalty that you can possibly get if you penalise yourself. Yeah.
So I think what people I shouldn't speak for other people, but there are different levels to advantage. And I think potentially we always look for advantage to be measured in meters or positions. I would argue that he gained a massive advantage by gambling on, sweet, well, I can brake much too late and go full send far too hard into this corner to try an audacious move, because it's relatively low risk, because there's a lot of grass in front of me. And so I can always just run over there, and then I'll rejoin the track, and then I'll slip back into fourth where I was, and then we're all good. But you're thinking, well, you did gain an advantage because you had a look at a big send, and you gave yourself an unrealistic opportunity. And I will concede that braking on a curb and whatever, and yes, he did get squeezed a little bit. I will say that. He did get, it wasn't silly, but if there's gravel on that corner, he doesn't go that hard into that corner. He knew that he had an escape route, so he's tried to rob the Louvre, and he's had a scooter waiting there for him. On this occasion, there was a security guard that just happened to be coming around the corner, so he had to scuttle back down his ladder, and he didn't take the necklace. But he tried to take the necklace, and so he played that gambling game. If there's gravel on that corner, he doesn't do it. I don't want to be one of those like reactive, we need to make changes every time something happens that seems a little bit dodgy. We see so much Mexico stuff into that turn one. Should there be gravel there? And is there too much grass around Mexico that if we graveled it up, would that resolve a lot of this, that we wouldn't have 8 minutes worth of podcast content to talk about because they either wouldn't do it or the consequences would be so great that they'd be beaching out anyway, or they'd have dropped 8 positions trying to sort of claw their way out the gravel.
Yeah. It feels too easy at some Grand Prix to go, don't worry about it. No, it's fine. It's all right. What I'll do is I'll be the good guy. I'll go to the left and we'll figure it out. A bit like Charles Leclerc. Why was there not more of a conversation about Charles Leclerc gaining advantage with turn 2 than what there actually was? Yeah. Why is it that lap 1, turn 1 seems to have different rules to lap 27, turn 1? Mm-hmm. Now, someone's going to listen to this and they're going to go, whether they bother commenting or what, but they're going to go, well, he's an idiot. It's because there's 20 cars there at the same time. Yep, get it. But that's when the position is that you can make the biggest advantage because there are 20 cars there at the same time. If you're gaining an advantage when you're going toe-to-toe with one other person, there's not much of an advantage to gain there. And if you're finishing 13th and 14th, who cares? Who genuinely cares? If you're going to pick up 3 positions or 4 positions or 8 positions because you don't put yourself in a position you would favor yourself to be in, then that's absolutely fine. And I think, and I know this is a bit of a segue and I appreciate you might not be finished on it yet, but the Hamilton penalty, absolute slam dunk. He definitely gained an advantage for whatever lap 11, turn 4 thing it was, where he again went onto the grass and went, nah, fuck it, I'm just going to boot it and see what happens. And it worked brilliantly for him because he did exactly what he did. He was about 3 seconds up the road from Verstappen by the time he finished. So you telling me that if Hamilton had just kind of gone, well, I just cruise around a bit, let Verstappen get to within 3/10, and I'll go, yeah, well, I've self-penalised myself. I've still got my position. I'm still in front. Max has cooked his tyres. I'm still okay. I didn't lock up. I'm fine. I can carry on, and I'll just extend my lead now over Max, and that would have been fine.
Yeah. And that's why 10 seconds for what he did there was harsh, but 10 seconds is also correct, and I enjoy that it's mandated, because that then did have a genuine knock-on for his race. And it put him way out of position. They had to, they were no longer in control, and it sorted him out. You don't want to start controlling the racing loads, and there is obviously a certain extent of let things happen, and then we'll sort of worry about it later. We can't put answers in for every possible situation in question. It does just feel like there's so much non-track space everywhere on a lot of circuits, and this isn't just a Mexico thing. There are a lot of circuits that seem to have a lot of off-track, fully safe space, consequence-free. And we wouldn't be saying this if Max had gone a meter further to the left and into the wall on turn 1, and that would have been an entirely different thing. Yeah, I think where people we're now at the point where we're overstating what the stewards are more lenient on lap 1 thing is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
For me, not a steward, that should be, if there's a little bit of rub and wheels, we forgive that because there's more cars there than there should be. They're processing a lot of information. They're looking left and right. You know, if you've got a car on either side of you, it's a lot easier to just rub a wheel with one, or a little bump here and there, or maybe we're not completely policing our normal white line track limits into turn 1. Because if someone just has to go another foot to the left just to make sure that 20 cars get through here, great. The whole lenience thing on lap 1, turn 1 doesn't suddenly mean that it's the purge and we've got no laws anymore for the first 30 seconds. That's not how that's meant to go, but that's the way I think, not necessarily the stewards, but fan bases are starting to see it. That, we can do whatever you want, lap 1, turn 1, it's lap 1, turn 1. They're more lenient. Lenient does not mean lawless. And I think that's maybe where things are getting to a little bit. And the drivers, it's not accidental. The drivers know what they're doing. They're going to take every available risk and push every available limit to see what they can get away with. It's like a couple of years ago when Alonso just deliberately cut the corner and he tried it on the reconnaissance lap and he just did it in the race. He's like, well, sweet, it was quicker.
Yeah.
Fine.
Well, the precedent has been set, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And there'll be a lot of people that have watched different TikToks and things like that, and they'll go, well, that's just the move and the commitment of a 4-time world champion. And you go, well, yeah, fine. But it sets a precedent, and I think that's the issue. If you look ahead, and this is all hypothetical, but you look ahead to Brazil and you go downhill left, downhill right, big sweeping left-hand bend, very, very short run into turn one. Grid gets very congested because part of the grid's pointing downhill, some of it's pointing uphill, some of it's level. Everybody gets different starts. The one side of the grid is considerably worse than the other. If you're on the right-hand side of the grid in Brazil, and I know it's not there because the way that the circuit goes and the elevation change, but if there was a route there that took you from the exit of, or the entrance of turn one on the outside and deposited you off on that long straight down into turn 4 at Brazil, you just take it, wouldn't you? Because you just go, that's fine, don't worry about it. What I'll do is I'll gain 8 positions, I'll let off into the thingy, my front wing's going to be okay, I'm not going to have spun, I'm not going to have tripped over anybody else, and I'll just filter my way back into the position that I've started in. I might have done that 8 corners later, but I didn't gain an advantage, so it's fine.
Yeah. Or walls. Stick walls everywhere.
Well, you could do that, but then we end up with like Azerbaijan everywhere, don't we? And I don't think many people want that. So what about
I'm joking
if we
about the walls?
But what if we did like, you know, on the old Mario Kart, and you have the special kind of like routes that you can kind of gain advantage, but there's a bit of jeopardy. So say Brazil, right? Say the circuit, you go down the hill, round the corner, and then round again. If you went straight on round, what it is, it's a long curving bank bit with a barn. And you go through, you have to break through the barn doors to get through it. And then you come out the other side of the barn, and then there's a little jump over some of those Mario cows that you have to land that, and then you carry on. And if you do that, then fair enough. Like, you've done well there. But what are you thinking?
I mean, we could sponsor it.
Could do.
We could get the barn sponsored.
Yeah.
The barn route. I think it's probably unlikely to get past some of the safety people.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
That's my thought.
Here's a question for you. Who'd be a steward?
Fuck knows. You can't win. You cannot win being an FIA steward. And we have done it, and we've digged into them, and every other media outlet and podcast and fan and socials and all the rest of it have dug into them. Very rarely do they get any praise for doing it well. I mean, it's all umpires and all referees, isn't it? It's the case across the board. But why would you want to do it? Because you're never going to please everyone, and everyone's going to go, great call, ref, well done.
Yeah. I don't know. We had things published, didn't we, earlier this year to provide clarity with regards to incidents and things like that. I don't know, actually. And I did try to have a little look for the actual stewards report from the Grand Prix. I had a quick Google of it. I don't even know if it's publicly available. But if it is publicly available, I dare say they're probably still kind of compiling it and probably on ring binder 7 now with regards to how many incidents they had to deal with. There's always going to be that issue with the fact that the stewards change each week. That's never, ever going to go away until they decide that they're actually going to have a consistent stewarding team, and therefore then you would know exactly where you stand each week, because, yes, it would still be subjective, but it would be subjective to one person, not subjective to a group of whoever, as wherever you are in the world at that time. But gee whiz, they were busy. If it wasn't lap 1, turn 1s, we had... What else did we have? We had the Hamilton thing. We had the Max into the side of Hamilton later in the race at turn 1. We had the Sainz pit lane speed limiter thing twice. I'm pretty sure Sainz got noted for something else in there. I think
there was some
Alonso
rubbing down the field. There was Lawson got nibbled at some point, or nibbled someone. I think Alonso might have nibbled or been nibbled. There was some stuff going on up and down. I think you raised a really interesting question beforehand that I'll sort of tee up for you and then sort of throw your way for an opinion, I suppose. But how are the stewards deciding the order in which they look at these? Because it doesn't seem to be chronological. So we've got Hamilton handed a 10-second penalty before they've investigated the lap 1, turn 1 stuff. Now, should they be looking at things in the order they come in on, chronologically in the race? Should they be trying to do the whole, that 5-minute rule with cleaning tasks or whatever? If it's going to take you less than 5 minutes, just do it now and get it done. Should they just be slam dunking the slam dunks first and then worrying about the other ones? what's your thought on how they should be looking at and applying penalties?
Well, I suppose because I noted this down, I obviously have had some thought over it, haven't I? And I don't understand the logic of it. I would have thought you would have to go through chronologically and put these pieces together in the order at which they've happened. Now, whether that means that you spend a bit longer looking at one and other people's are delayed or whatever, then that might well be the case. But and look, we've been accused of all sorts, as most Formula One outlets have been over the last couple of years, with regards to who their favourites are and who they don't favour and all this other stuff. But that Lewis Hamilton penalty, yes, I've conceded already the fact that was no doubt in my mind a slam dunk think of what he did. But they were still investigating Max Verstappen as to whether he'd gained an advantage at lap 1, turn 1. If they'd have deemed that he had gained an advantage at lap 1, turn 1 and then penalised him efficiently at that particular time, that incident might not even have happened. They might have been in completely different parts of the race circuit. Now, that doesn't excuse what Hamilton did, and if the penalty is there and it's outstanding, then you still can't do what you were going to do. But would you then do it differently if you knew somebody already had a 10-second penalty? Would you fight it as hard, and then would you? I think that's the issue for me, is the fact that it leaves so much open to possibility and interpretation. Get it done chronologically, and maybe what they can do with lap 1, turn 1 is turn around and get over the radio and turn around and say, look, you gained an advantage. We've done the quick maths, because there's some intelligent people that work in Formula One. If you hadn't have done this, we expected you to return to the circuit in P14, drop to P14, carry on your life.
No, I hate it.
Fine.
Sorry. No, that's too ripe for debate again. I think we need black and white. We need less grey in F1, and calculations and sponsored by AWS and all the rest of it is the greyest of the grey. I think there is a call for speed though. And I'm fully on board with you there on chronological. I think it has to be chronological. I can't believe it's not. How do they not have a queue of things that come in? And I know technically it's sort of, there might be a breakdown. Should there not just be someone whose job it is to note things? Like, I know there kind of is, and I think it might be the race director.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's someone who we never get referenced, and it is someone's job to sit there and note things. But there should just be someone, or it should be more obvious if there's someone whose job it is just to queue things up. Queue up incidents for the stewards to look at, and the stewards should have to make a definitive decision on one before they can look at the next, whether that's no further, penalty, whatever.
Yeah.
Sweet, that one's done, we can go to the next one now. Because, I don't think, it was like 5 laps, I think, between, I think it was lap 6 that the Hamilton thing happened. Okay, that's probably too quick for them to have come out with a penalty for Verstappen, because that's, 8 minutes, give or take, 7-8 minutes. And I don't want them rushing things. But they have to have, you can't have penalised someone for something later before you've gone back and done the first thing. Unless it was something, no, actually, there's no reason why ever. I was going to say unless it was some major thing. But if it is a major thing, then that should be taking priority anyway. So just do them in order. Do them in order. I'm probably, I was about to say I'm probably of the opinion that they maybe got to the right outcome eventually. Hamilton's is absolutely a slam dunk. I'm not buying what he said on the radio of, everyone knows it's really dirty in that bit of the track and there's no grip. Okay, so guess what? You know it's really dirty but there's no grip there, so you can't send it down there. It's not surprising you locked up 3 or 4 wheels and went off the track.
Yep.
Funny that. If you knew there was a hole there, guess what? You would have driven around it.
Then that's exactly the same as what we've just spoken about with regards to lap 1, turn 1.
Yeah.
But lap 1, turn 1 is officiated differently to lap 5, turn 4 by the same people.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is hard to figure out.
Let the robots do it. AI time. Just get Claude. Claude can be our new, all of our new stewards.
Could that genuinely be something? Like if you have an estimated lap time or an estimated point of various different pieces, if you're ahead of where you should be on your estimated thingy, you're done for. Done.
Yeah.
Simple. I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of a VSE type situation, isn't it? But it works well there. I mean, why can you not have a VSE equivalent system in place for green flag motor racing?
Yeah. I mean, you can't tell me that we're not at the point technologically where we could have a second, maybe it's a couple of laps delayed, 3D generated, rendered, replay of the race going on that computers could be poring over going, I don't like that. Nope, that's outside parameters. Yeah. And maybe that's the first line, because I think you are always going to need humans involved, because there is subjective elements to this, and as much as we want to black and white and objective there's always stuff that maybe a computer couldn't see. But yeah, like, hey, the AI's flagged that one. Have a look, confirm or deny.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't know.
Lap 1, turn 1's tough. You either do nothing or you do everything, in my opinion. Because if you find yourself in, again, one of those grey areas in the middle, which changes week by week depending on who might be sat in that office at that particular time, they're always going to have different levels or different percentages of severity that needs to be applied to various different moments on a lap 1, turn 1. So do everything, do nothing, and they are genuinely think are your two options. Just because there's 20 cars in there at the same time doesn't mean you can go ahead and do whatever the hell you want because it's, it's because it was busy.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Nope, valid. Our last penalty-based thing.
Oh, yeah.
Carlos Sainz was at genuine risk of getting an infinite penalty, I think, in Mexico.
Yeah.
Because it's wonderful for me, and I understand it's a pre-written, punishment or whatever, but giving someone a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane twice, when by all accounts he was sort of not fully in control of the pit limiter because there was an issue there, it's incredible he didn't then speed for his drive-through penalty. And then I don't even know what happens from there. A stop and go, I guess. But he's probably going to speed on his stop and go. He might just have a penalty for the rest of his career. He might just be stuck in a loop.
A bit like when Bottas turns up and has to start 24th next season because of his carryover penalty. Yeah, it could have been. Genuinely could have been. I don't know how they fixed it and how they suddenly made the... Or is it a case of is it something silly? And again, this is every chance this is true. That if you get your penalty for speeding in the pit lane, if you then speed in the pit lane by serving your penalty, you don't get penalised for speeding in the pit lane. Because surely if he's had to apply his pit lane speed limiter, which wasn't working for his pit stop, it wouldn't then be working for his drive-through penalty, which he would have had to have completed. So therefore, the two options are, A, he sped in the pit lane because his limiter still wasn't working, or he manually drove through the pit lane, and Christ knows how you're meant to feather the throttle of a Formula One car to just go at 50 kilometers per hour when you've got 1,000 brake horsepower just to kind of go. And I would imagine you can sit there with your throttle and you go, and then all of a sudden you're doing 130.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he's done that.
He's done well though.
Well maybe.
Well done.
Maybe. Who knows?
There's been so much stewarding chat, but I do think we need to quickly talk about the VSC.
Oh, can you talk about science again?
Yeah, we're going back to Carlos to round it off. Okay, again, I can't speak for all F1 fans, but I don't think you can be a genuine F1 fan and complain realistically about the VSC at the end. You've got a car stopped off track that cars would, in theory, T-bone if they lost control. We need to go extreme with this. If a car went through that corner, lost control, they're going to go straight to the side of Carlos Sainz. And there were two marshals out on track. It's a VSC. I know it's disappointing. It blue-balled the fuck out of everyone. I was disappointed too. I like really good racing. It's a VSC. It has to be. You can't just double yellow it because there's marshals on track.
Yep. Done.
So stop complaining.
One thing I would say about it is, why did Sainz not drive further into the gap?
I think his car was quite fucked.
No, it was very wobbly. It was very wobbly, but it was wobbly enough in order to get near enough to that gap that I'm certain it could have wobbled 5 yards further to have got behind that barrier. Maybe again, this is our lack of investigative journalism, and we just don't know. But maybe Formula One drivers aren't actually allowed to drive outside of that kind of
there's also
circuit.
A load of walls and marshals and stuff around that if you get a lot of torque spike and the car spins sideways, I don't actually...
Sounds logical.
Is it Carlos Sainz's responsibility to completely get off the track? You couldn't argue that he moved himself away from the higher danger area, being on the outside of that corner where they do take a lot of curb and whatever. He tried to roll himself. It feels more like a courtesy thing than a requirement thing, and that I might be wrong there. But all the people going, why did Sainz not do this and do this? His car's on fire, mate. His car's on fire, and his steering wheel's pointing the wrong way, and he can't drive the thing. He's just done 70 laps of a bloody hot Mexican Grand Prix. I don't think he has to reverse park it and valet it and, put the keys in the box for you. I don't think.
And then the wing
For those of
mirrors
you just
fold
listening
in.
to the podcast, Dan has just really nicely mimed doing a wonderful reverse parallel.
That was good, actually, wasn't it?
But I don't think that's his job, personally. I might be wrong, but I don't think that's his job.
I agree with you. But yeah, it was a shame. And I think, well, the reality of the situation is that people don't really give a shit about the safety side of it, do they? And they'll just quite happily carry on with it and kind of scream and shout and moan and bitch and whinge and craze. And again, it doesn't help. And I don't know what the F1 TV commentary was like, but it doesn't help when the people that are providing you with the information are also the ones whinging, bitching, moaning and crying about the fact that there's been a VSC called and oh, well, did there need to be one there? Or we've been robbed of this. It's like, actually, no, you should be singing from the same hymn sheet here. You should be saying the VSC has been called. You can be critical, but that's not the commentator's job. That would be the job for the punditry team at the end of it. If your commentator is part of that team afterwards, then that's absolutely fine. But you can't be critical of the officiating decisions whilst the event is going on, which is exactly what Sky were doing at that particular moment. But yes, we were robbed of what could have been a great finish. What I think was likely to have been is Max, with this great finish, would have overtaken Charles Leclerc with DRS down the main straight, got the job done before we got anywhere near turn one, and then pissed off down the second DRS straight, and we never would have seen him, and it wouldn't actually have been this incredible ding-dong, like fist fight finish that they were billing up, or what they were dubbing it to be. It would have been turn one, lap 71, DRS overtakes into the braking zone.
I mean, also, people need to remember, VSCs are not, we've done 20 minutes there of stewarding decisions about penalties and sporting penalties. The VSC is a safety thing, and we can't go, we were robbed of great racing because they were trying to be safe. Well, we don't go racing at all without marshals, and we're not having marshals unless those marshals are safe, because they're volunteers, and no one's going to volunteer to go and do that if they don't feel like they're actually being looked after by who's looking after them. And so if you want racing, we have to go racing as safely as possible for those that are not putting themselves in harm's way. And that means if we're throwing a VSC, we're throwing a VSC.
Yep.
Very quickly, did you see, to counter all of that, Liam Lawson nearly running over two marshals running across the track at turn one?
No.
Because this seemed to go completely unnoticed on the broadcast in a lot of places. Liam Lawson nearly hit two marshals that were running across the track between turns 1 and 2 to pick up debris from all of the ding-dong at the start. Because Lawson had come into pit, which they didn't expect him to, race control had told the stewards, you are clear. Race control had told the marshals, yep, clear, enter the track, go and pick up the debris, please, because everyone had gone through. Lawson then pitted. Race control noticed that Lawson had pitted and went, no, cancel that. Cancel the order. Like, you can't go out anymore. Marshals didn't see that. So you've got Liam Lawson within... I mean, he's sharing a same mini sector as a person, which should never be. And if you listen to his radio, he's quite understandably a mixture of angry and shaken. Like, it's worth going and listening to his onboard, because he is like... And he then sort of... I know he's just put fresh tyres on, but he's a little bit wobbly and stuff through the next corner, because he is like... There shouldn't be people there. I shouldn't have to ever worry about them being two moving people in that bit of track coming around.
One, he was probably a bit wobbly through the next corner because he's a bit useless. And the second one as well is well, true.
Is it?
Clearly, why did we bother with a VSC? If that's the precedent that's set earlier on in the race, fuck them. Get them out there with their shovels and brushes and stuff like that, and just push Carlos Sainz's burning Williams back in towards the crowd and just let them race. Done. Yeah. Simples.
Yeah.
It's inconsistency again, though, isn't it? And yes, it was a cock-up. It was a cock-up. It was a mistake, but I don't know.
I mean, because this didn't need a VSA, because they were so grouped together that it's a very common thing that we can double yellow at. You know, we can see the gap that they've got to work in, but it is an alarming systems or processes failure that one car making an unexpected pit stop can have us that close to what's going on. But anyway, I think that's all our stewarding and general stuff. Should we do some just positive shout outs? Because there are 3 drivers that deserve all sorts of praise. We've given Lando a little bit of glaze already, so we can maybe move on from him. But it's a mega drive from Max, but fuck him. We talk about him too much. What a drive from Oliver Bearman.
What a drive. What a Grand Prix.
Wow.
Where did it come from?
Yeah, the bloke society's just going to send it down the inside of Max Verstappen and just stuck it. I think everyone expected Max just to walk back past again within a lap or two.
I think because of the kerfuffles and the shenanigans throughout the opening 10 laps, all of a sudden, Crofty goes, Ollie Bearman's just taken 4th. And you've gone, sorry,
hang on.
What? How has this happened?
Crofty's good at mixing up cars at times, but like, Crofty, I'm just going to get you to double check that one for me.
Well, exactly. And and then it suddenly goes, well, with Hamilton's penalty, he's running in a net P3, and you're like, but I don't understand how he got here, Crofty. What's happened with, whilst we've been focused on Hamilton, Verstappen, Russell, Piastri, Antonelli, Leclerc, and rewatching replays of lap 1, turn 1, all of a sudden, Bearman has just appeared. I don't even know. Where did he even start? What was his grid slot? I mean, if you're going to tell me it was like P5 or something, you go, oh, that was less of a surprise. But it feels like he's probably started 28th and then all of a sudden just gone, I'm 4th now.
No, I don't have it in front of me, but he made Q3 anyway.
Yeah.
So it would have been by the time Sainz had dropped down as well.
Sure.
And dropped out of the way. He's probably started 8th or 9th, I would imagine. Would be, 7th, 8th, 9th, something in that. But I have a question on strategy, and I hope there's someone smarter than me about F1 strategy that can answer this. But why did all the teams suddenly seem to decide it was a 2-stopper and just part the Red Sea for Max Verstappen to coast through on a very quick 1-stopper? And particularly Haas, because if I've got track position, okay, Mexico's not a particularly hard overtaking track. But if I'm Haas and I've got a driver running in P3, and I don't think Haas have ever had a podium. I think P4 is the best they've ever done before with Grosjean historically. Mm-hmm. I'm leaving him in P3 and just putting my dick in the wind and see what happens. And I'm just telling Ollie, make your car track wide, see what happens, mate. Because why give up P3 yourself rather than try and hang it out on P3 and then lose it out at the end? But it just seemed like so many people suddenly jumped to the 2-stopper, made up absolutely no ground on Verstappen whatsoever, who just carried on his merry way on a 1-stopper. It just seemed very odd to me that everyone bar Red Bull decided that was the way to go.
Yeah, it was well, who started the chain reaction? Was it Antonelli? Antonelli and Piastri boxed at the same time.
They came together, yeah.
And I can only assume that one or the other, i.e. McLaren, were going to do that, didn't then expect Mercedes to do the same because they wanted to then give Oscar an opportunity to fly up the back of Antonelli with fresh tyres. And I think possibly coincidentally Mercedes boxed at the very same moment, which then caused that kind of chain reaction to carry on through. But I do agree with you with Haas, and I think you and I were both relatively fans of Bernie Collins when she pops on every now and again. She is very insightful about her particular roles that she's had in the past. When she was then talking about it, and she tried to be as positive as possible with regards to it, and that's where I lose a little bit of respect with it. It's kind of to call it out. If you don't think it's right, say it's not right. You can't be positive about everything. And it was a case of, well, I think they've done it so that they can give him fresh tyres for an opportunity to battle. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, but if he'd have stayed out, he could have battled for P3 and then finished P4 anyway.
Yeah.
Or you've taken P3 away from him. You've guaranteed that he won't finish P3. Yeah. And you'll give him an opportunity to battle for P4.
Yeah.
And
I think that's my big thing.
That I found quite puzzling. And at the end of the day with Haas, with the season that they've had and the years that they've had, what have they possibly got to lose? Oh, no, it's another weekend without a podium. It doesn't matter because Ollie Bearman's tyres have fallen off as he finished 9th. That's a shame. Yeah. That's gutting because he's done very, very well. Everybody's still going to give him a massive pat on the back. He's still going to win driver of the day. He's still going to get some really cool paddock pen interviews afterwards.
Yeah.
But you've gambled for the big prize. And what was that podium worth for Haas to have then suddenly turn around and go, no, don't worry about it. We'll gamble, because even gambling, it was a gamble on a P4. It wouldn't have been a guarantee. It was a gamble on a P4. And I was disappointed. And particularly with the future of this podcast, where I think we've had this conversation, but if not, we're going to have it now. But we are going to be the official Formula One podcast of the Cadillac Formula One team in the 2026 Formula One season. So you had an opportunity, Haas, and you fluffed it.
Yep. Hey ho. Sassy radios. We'll cover this quickly.
Oh yeah.
Hell of a weekend of mic work from everyone, seemingly. It's the most sassy George Russell has ever been about anything with anyone for any purpose. Great. Alex Albon lost his cool massively. GP, for the first time, spoke like a normal human being and not like an AI-generated prompt reply. Is it just the thin air or something in Mexico? Like, what is going on the radios this weekend?
I love all of it. I don't know what happened with Red Bull. No idea.
Press the wrong button, didn't he?
Again, our mate Bernie popped up and she was talking about the fact that people use tape and have beepers and all this other stuff. But I just genuinely think somebody had kind of rewired his button box the wrong way around and had started speaking to people that he shouldn't have been speaking to. It was brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. And because the way it was portrayed was the fact that he was speaking to Max.
Yeah.
So what are we doing, Max? Are we
on a one-stop, two-stop?
Are we on Strat A or Strat B right now? I don't know, actually. What are we doing? And that was fantastic because I really wanted Max to turn around and say, mate, I have no idea what strategy we're on right now. That's your job. Other than that, he was very polite by turning around saying, I can hear everything. Yeah. Albon was hilarious. Just very, very funny.
Angry boy.
Just calling
Angry
out.
Boy.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Brilliant. Absolutely nailed it. Just fuck off. That's fantastic. Love it. And George was spot on. George was absolutely spot on with what he wanted to happen and what Mercedes should have happened, because again, that probably would have put George a lot closer to that P3, which had he or hadn't he got it or not, who knows with what would have transpired. But that's where Red Bull excel, because they have a number 1 driver and they have a number 7 driver, whereas Mercedes and everybody else have a number 1 or 2 number 1s or a number 1 and a 1.3 and things like that. George is your experienced guy. George is the guy that's got your podiums. George is the reason why you're currently sat P2 or what was P2 in the Constructors' World Championship. Back the 26-year-old. Back the boy that's done nearly 150 Grand Prix. Back the one that slogged it out in the slowest car of the grid for you, waiting for the opportunity to drive your car. Back the guy that's going to, if you get there, win you a World Drivers' Championship and a Constructors' Championship. Don't fanny ass and fart ass around with a 7-year-old Italian lad who's just signed the contract, who's occasionally got near the podium, but quite regularly finishes about P7, which is great. Really good effort. Invest in your bloke and just let him go and do his thing. Stop trying to be so nice to people.
Yeah, I think what changed it as well slightly was straight away George was like, I'll give it back if it don't work. Yeah. Like George wasn't trying to alpha it, really. I think George was being very, I feel a lot quicker. Let's have a look. I'll give it back if I can't get him. Fine. And I did like, though, I think it's Marcus Dudley, his race engineer. I did like that after he told him to cool his rears and then got an absolute fucking arseful from George, he then had another dip and was like, yes, I still want you to cool the tyres. So I was like, go on, Marcus.
But again, the other bit, and I hope you heard it as well, and George was like, I've got a fucking McLaren up my arse right now. Do you want me to just let him through? No, thank you, George.
Yeah. Great. Marcus, well done. Driver of the day. Yep. Driver of the day, Marcus Dudley. That's what I'll say.
Tell you what, you're good knowledge you are for radio people.
That's what I do. That's what I do. Only those ones.
Pay the respect.
I feel Bearman, no. One of the Hasses has got a lady, just because it's a... There's no reason for it to be an outlier. There's, I'm sure... But I don't know her name. That's all I know. Okay. We've just picked the ones that I do know. What I will say as well, just before we move on, it was highlighted on the F1 TV broadcast briefly by, I think, Julian Palmer. And then something else happened in this absolute banger of a race. I think GP going hot mic proves, or maybe sheds a little bit more light on what people don't realize, that the race engineers are doing absolutely no strategy, and they don't actually, this is going to sound really harsh, they don't know much. Their job is to be the link between the people that know everything and the driver. And it's not, I think there's sometimes people think that the pit wall is everyone involved. And so that the decisions are being made by GP about what we should do at different times or whatever. It's like, no, he is the connection between that information and the driver. He gets told, we're going to stop. He goes, sweet, presses the button, Max, we're going to stop. He's not particularly involved in that conversation or involved in that conversation at all in deciding the to stop. Oh, God.
No,
you've raised
fair
your
enough.
eyebrows.
Fair enough. Why did Lando Norris get booed?
I tell you exactly why he didn't get booed. Because he didn't put the hat on. He deserved every boo that he got. Don't come up on the coolest podium of the year, riding your car, sitting next to a sombrero. Put the hat on, Lando.
But is that why?
No.
So
I don't know why Mexico hates Lando.
Well, this is what I'm trying to work out, and I just did a quick Google of it as to find out as to why, and I haven't really managed to learn anything other than the fact that the opening line of this article from Autosport, which is a reputable organisation, is it is 6,100 miles from Monza to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, which is a great name for a circuit, I have to say, as the crow flies. But the ripples from the events at the Italian Grand Prix have travelled far. Lando Norris was booed roundly by the crowd throughout the Mexican Grand Prix weekend, and not just on sold-out race day. So Verstappen romps to victory, Norris second after McLaren swaps positions.
I'm going to be honest with you. So far, this article is not at all telling me why Lando Norris has been booed.
Norris, who had given up his place in the McLaren pit stop queue to teammate Oscar Piastri after the two went long into the race with medium tyres, he then suffered a slow... Right, okay.
We're just currently listening to you read an article that's not about Lando Norris being booed.
Well, no, because I'm trying to figure this out. So Mexico booed Lando Norris because when Lando Norris had that slow stop and McLaren chose to switch the cars round because Piastri had got past Norris in the pit stops at Monza, that's why the Mexican booed Norris.
That sounds like utter bollocks. What are they basing that on? How many people have they asked? Like, sorry, can I just check? Why are you... Sorry, no. Hello, mate. Why are you booing Lando?
No, they stood there at the exit with the little stadium section with a clipboard. Yeah. And they gave them different options. And they went, 1, because you don't like his hair. 2, because he's British. 3, because he has... you don't like the fluoro yellow and it should be a different colour. Or is it because McLaren swapped you around with Oscar Piastri at the Italian Grand Prix?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
And they just checked them off.
I'm not buying that. That makes no sense from Autosport. That's a strange link to make to me.
Yeah. Well,
it's not like it was the last race either. That's odd.
Yeah. But that is what that article has claimed as to the issue, or as to why the Mexicans were booing Lando Norris.
I'm going to dispute it.
I thought I'd let you know.
Points.
Yeah.
Random World Championship points.
Yes.
You opened the gap slightly further.
Yeah, let's get the important World Championship out of the way first before we talk about the repercussions of the actual World Championship. But yes, Verstappen and Tsunoda scored 15 points, whereas Russell and Stroll scored 6 at the Mexican Grand Prix. So that puts me on to 225 and yourself on 208 points. So if my mathematics is correct, I've got a 17-point lead with, 116 available points left in this World Championship, with 4 feature races at 25 points each, plus 2 sprints at 8 points each, which I think works out to be 116 points. So there is a lot of toing and froing to go, and you can just see it, can't you? Like, if one of us gets a good pairing for a sprint race, because sprint races are massively important in this World Championship.
Apparently. That's what all the articles keep telling me.
Huge. So yeah, that's where we are. And then in terms of the other one, we've got a new leader, which is exciting. Lando Norris has now gone past Oscar Piastri. So he has a 1-point lead going into Brazil. Max Verstappen, he now requires, and we love this little bit of a statage, don't we? He requires to outscore now Lando Norris by 9.2 points per weekend in order to overtake and surpass that McLaren driver in order to win the World Championship in Abu Dhabi, which as we well know, first place to second place now isn't going to be enough.
Yeah. Yeah, which is the big thing. And all the while, the interesting one was people seem to be making this very bold assumption that Max was then going to win everything. And all of their maths were based on Verstappen winning every available competitive session from now on, which he's bloody good. Very unlikely to do that. And I think it was Charles Leclerc maybe did some media work and they were like, oh, like, what do you think Max's chances are? And you think, really not great. Which I think if your drivers are saying like the chance of the same bloke winning everything from here on out is just highly unlikely, no matter how good he is. And I think he wasn't very lucky. It was a very good drive from Max, but he was very lucky to come away with a podium this weekend. I think for a long time through that race, it was looking like a P4, P5, and it was just some strange strategy calls elsewhere and potentially a good strategy call and a great drive from him that got him there. But if he's having to work bloody hard for a P3 that arguably could have been a P2 if Sainz didn't put it backwards, I mean, that was a lot of things working in his favour to be 31 seconds behind the bloke.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Oscar, he needs to pick this ball up.
Oh, does he ever?
Wherever he's put it down, he needs to go and find it. He needs to pick it up sharpish. But we both said after Austin, didn't we, that these McLaren drivers, both of them, are not going to continue to absolutely stink the house out in consecutive weeks, which is exactly what they've really done since Azerbaijan. When you think about the Piastri weekend, then the Norris failure to capitalise on it. Singapore wasn't great for either of them. The US wasn't brilliant for either of them. And then McLaren and Lando have turned up in Mexico and just gone, still good.
Hello.
Still good. Still here.
It's us.
So it is going to be tough. It's got tougher. Definitely got tougher. But those two sprint weekends are still there, and potentially if you see a repercussion of or a repeat of what happened at lap 1 turn 1 in the US, there's 16 points there for Max Verstappen straight away, potentially, but the likelihood of that happening is considerably smaller.
Yes, indeed. Right, hey,
good.
Banger of a Grand Prix, lots to talk about. Mercifully, we get a week off now. I don't think I could have handled a triple header into Brazil.
No.
We all need a little cool down. We need some more oxygen. We need lower altitude. And we all just need to breathe some thick air for a few days. In the meantime, where can they find you, Dan?
Well, when I'm at lower altitude and just eating some thick air, I'll also be making cricket stuff at Dan Jads on the internet. So if you'd like to go and see some of that stuff, that'd be good. See you over there, building a new community. So I appreciate it. How about yourself? What are you gaming at the moment?
I might do some train stuff this weekend, and I might do a little bit more F1 this week. I should be doing some more F1 stuff as well, because I've got another wheel to test as well from Turtle Beach. So twitch.tv/HeyLucasAlex. You can go and watch me there. Lapdown Pod on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. You should go and follow us there and hit like and comment and subscribe and leave a review and share it with a friend. Lapdownpod@gmail.com if you want to send us an email. We'll be back next week to talk about the Brazilian Grand Prix. And in the meantime, go and do your own officiating. Go and do your own stewarding. Work out who should have got penalties and why, and show us you're working out.
Done.